immediately after he ingested a DMT-containing shrub, also depicted in the Old Testament as the burning bush. So who knows if that's true? There are some stories that this is what happened, but this is one example. So he had a mystical experience, generated the God within, and then brought the God to the people, and that's actually when the Israelites turned to be Jewish. And that's when Judaism started. So that was back then, and then to this day, still psychoactive sacraments are used as part of indigenous rituals. The iboga shrub, for example, which is native to West Africa, is still used ritually as in rites of passage ceremonies, specifically in the Bwiti tribe, the African Bwiti tribe, which reside in Gabon in West Africa. And ayahuasca is consumed as part of an ancient spiritual lineage and practiced in many tribes of the Amazon jungle, various regions, Colombia, Peru, Brazil. We're all members of every age of the community partake in ceremony together. They have babies sitting in ceremonies with them, they have children running around as they drink the medicine. In some cultures, in fact, particularly the Santo Daime, which is a Judeo-Christian religion from Brazil, which they employ ayahuasca in part of their ceremonies. The babies that are born into this religion, before they taste the mother's milk, they get a drop of ayahuasca on their tongue. Yeah. So yeah, they call the medicine la medicina, the medicine. It's not a psychoactive drug, it's medicine. So quite a different outlook from where we are, right? So ritual use today and also where we are. Some cultural considerations to think about. So we're currently living in a day and age where ayahuasca has made its way, the ayahuasca brew has made its way from the jungles of the Amazon into the concrete urban jungle of Los Angeles, okay? And ayahuasca is consumed in places from tiny downtown apartments to massive churches, and they say that on any given night of the week, you throw a stone and hundreds to thousands of people are sitting in ceremony and drinking ayahuasca. This week also spoke to some Hollywood agent, and she mentioned a term I've never heard before. She said ayahuasca parties, where literally people go to parties without, ayahuasca parties, without any preparation, without a sense, well, that's what I'm assuming, that, they just go and they chug it, I guess. I don't know. But I've also heard of groups where they serve the medicine in Dixie cups, stories. Basically, ayahuasca currently is, they're taking a very old and ancient, again, lineage with tradition, and the facilitators that are being called to do this work because they see a very high demand for it, they don't necessarily have any experience, they just feel called. Who here has drank ayahuasca? Let's also a show of hands. Okay, quite a few. So those who, you might, lots of you who've tried it, you might relate to the notion that once you try it, once you feel like it's kind of like a path or a calling, like you want to go back, and you also feel like everyone should try it because it's amazing. And a lot of people get that fire and feel like they do want to serve it, but without having the knowledge or the tools as to how to facilitate this very, very powerful medicine in a safe manner. And the notion of the sacredness is just becomes obsolete. And then at the same time, others prefer to engage with ayahuasca in her natural habitat, the jungle, and they travel down to Peru to one of the many retreat centers that cater to Westerners. And I think it was from Dr. Tripp who once mentioned the term, the Disneyland of ayahuasca, that they wanted to have down there. Is that right, Dr. Tripp? I think you mentioned that. So anyone these days can call themselves a shaman, right? And we don't have a regulating board. In the jungle, there is, again, as part of the tradition, leaders of ceremony they get approached by the elders, they get taught the methodology that their forefathers and grandmothers have taught them, and they don't take that matter very lightly at all. Where here, again, anyone can call themselves a shaman or a healer, and that's that, and a lot of people will buy that, right? without mentorship. So these sacred practices are being exploited, basically, and the medicine is being exploited, and also the people that go down to the jungle to capitalize on it. The medicine is being abused right now. The plants are being abused. And meanwhile, again, here in the U.S., while many psychedelics are scheduled, there are some churches that have an exemption under the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. So there is, again, the Santo Daime Church, which is from Brazil. There is a Native American church. There is also the UDV, União de Vegetal, which are all allowed to consume plant medicines as part of their as a sacrament. And those who don't belong to these churches, probably most of us, right? We're just, in a way, some of us might feel that this perhaps could be a human rights violation because we're not allowed to partake with a sacrament because we're not considered a part of the church, so we're not allowed to practice a sense of sacredness with a living, breathing, organic plant. So plants are illegal. That's just mind-bending. Another thing to think about. And all that said here is just the quote that really we're trying to really explain here. Okay, so psychedelics are all about the experience.
Just kidding. Keep that where it was. Okay. Oh. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. We're also going to do like a whirlwind tour of some of the different psychedelics that are out there, and then kind of the research in a nutshell for each of the substances. Before we get there, though, I have to talk a little bit about pharmacology because I am a pharmacist after all. And I understand that for all of you, spiritual and depth psychology is about Jungian philosophy or psychology and things like that, but for me, spiritual and depth psychology is serotonin, man. This stuff is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. You may hear about serotonin. Probably the most common narrative about serotonin out there is that if you have a low level of serotonin, then that's the cause of depression. And by giving some medication, then you're able to rebalance your serotonin level and your depression is lifted. Certainly increased levels of serotonin has an effect on our mood, but I think the point I'm trying to communicate here is that the mystery of serotonin is so much deeper than some type of chemical imbalance with mood. Serotonin recently was found to not only function as a neurotransmitter, but to be able to bind to DNA directly and modify its expression. This, to me, suggests that serotonin was floating around in the primordial soup, right?